Skye Blakely now follows the same words. Twice in her career, Skye Blakely has torn a major connective tissue at the exact moment it mattered most. Once during an Olympic trials, once during podium training ahead of another Olympic trials. And twice she has walked back onto a competition floor anyway, refusing to let either moment become the final chapter of her career. This past summer at the US Classic in Hartford, she made a choice that told you everything about where her head is now. She had the option to compete the all-around, the event most tied to her Olympic ambitions. She chose not to. Just because there's an opportunity to do something doesn't mean that I have to take that opportunity, she said. There's still a lot of success in competing bars and beam. It's not about like, I can, so I will. Her name is Skye Blakely, and she trains at a Texas gymnastics academy with a very specific history. The same gym that produced back-to-back Olympic all-around champions, and the same gym where, more than 2 decades earlier, a young Nastia Liukin appeared in a commercial alongside gymnastics' original perfect 10 icon, Nadia Comaneci. Blakely grew up training in the shadow of that exact lineage, inside a building where the walls themselves carry that history. We'll get to how directly that connects to her own story. First, you need to understand what it actually took to survive 2 separate injuries that could each have ended her career outright, at 19 and at 16, years apart, on the exact same road toward the exact same dream, chasing an Olympic team spot that kept slipping away at the worst possible moment. Skye Blakely was born on February 4, 2005, in Dallas, Texas, to Stephen and Stephanie Blakely. She has an older sister, Sloan, who was already deep into gymnastics by the time Skye was old enough to notice, and noticing was all it took. Skye started the sport in 2008 at just 3 years old, following her sister into a gym before she'd even formed strong opinions of her own about what she wanted to do with her childhood, the way so many younger siblings end up in a sport simply because it's already happening in front of them every afternoon. Sloan would go on to compete internationally herself, part of the U.S. team that won gold at the 2019 Gymnics International in Montreal, a sibling rivalry and partnership that shaped both of their careers from the very beginning. 2 Blakely girls chasing the same sport under the same roof. The family's path led them to the World Olympic Gymnastics Academy in Frisco, Texas, co-founded in 1994 by 1988 Olympic champion Valery Liukin and World Sports Acrobatics champion Yevgeny Marchenko. It is not an exaggeration to call WOGA one of the most decorated gymnastics programs in American history. Carly Patterson won Olympic all-around gold there in 2004. Nastia Liukin won it again in 2008. Madison Koshin added an Olympic gold on uneven bars in 2016. It remains the only U.S. training program to ever produce back-to-back Olympic all-around champions, a distinction no other American gym has matched before or since. Skye Blakely walked into that gym as a small child surrounded by the photographs, the trophies, and the actual coaches who had built every one of those careers from scratch, training daily inside a building that had already proven twice over exactly what was possible from that equipment and those coaches. A proof of concept she'd eventually try to add her own name to. Blakely's results built steadily through the junior ranks, the kind of gradual climb that eventually produces a genuine contender rather than a flash-in-the-pan prospect. In 2018, she began making a name for herself on the national qualifier circuit, competing at events like the Buckeye National Qualifier and the WOGA Classic, the very meet her own gym hosts every year, now held at the Dallas Cowboys training facility in front of thousands of spectators from across the country and beyond. The following year, at the first-ever Junior World Championships in 2019, Blakely won bronze on uneven bars, becoming a world medalist before most of her competitors had even finished middle school. It was a genuinely significant result, the inaugural edition of that specific championship, meaning Blakely's name is permanently attached to the very first Junior World's medal table in the event's history, a footnote in the record books that will never belong to anyone else. Drop a comment below. Did you know Skye Blakely medaled at the first Junior World Championships the sport ever held? The postponement of the Tokyo Olympics to 2021 created an unusual opening. American gymnasts born in 2005, like Blakely, suddenly found themselves old enough to try to qualify for a games that would have been out of reach under the original 2020 schedule, an accident of timing that turned a 16-year-old's distant dream into a genuine, immediate possibility. It was a real shot at making an Olympic team as a teenager, competing against gymnasts several years her senior for one of the most coveted rosters in American sports. Then, during the 2021 U.S. Olympic trials, Blakely ruptured the ulnar collateral ligament in her left elbow, an injury serious enough to force her withdrawal from the competition entirely. Her Tokyo dream ended not with a disappointing score, but with a torn ligament at exactly the moment the opportunity had opened up for her, a cruel piece of timing that had nothing to do with her actual ability. She underwent surgery and rebuilt her career from there, refusing to let one injury at 16 become the defining fact of her career, treating it as one setback in a much longer story rather than the story's ending. It was the first time gymnastics had taken something away from her at the exact moment she'd earned the right to compete for it. It would not be the last. Blakely's response to that first setback was as complete a rebuild as the sport allows, a methodical return that turned an elbow reconstruction into a launching pad rather than an obstacle. At the 2022 World Championships, she helped Team USA win gold and individually finished fifth on balance beam in the event final, a genuine top-5 finish against the deepest gymnastics program in the world's own internal competition for spots, a signal that her career had not just survived the injury, but grown stronger through the recovery. She added bronze medals in the all-around and floor exercise at the 2022 Pan American Championships, along with a team silver. Then in 2023, she helped the U.S. team win gold at the World Championships for a second consecutive year, becoming a two-time World Championship team gold medalist by age 18, with a full Olympic cycle's worth of major meet experience already behind her. I guess a mindset, just focusing on the way I think about things, just trying to stay more calm overall, Blakely said of the steadiness that carried her through that stretch of her career, a mental approach she credited directly for the consistency that had once seemed elusive. She'd gone from a 16-year-old whose Olympic dream ended in a hospital room to an 18-year-old with 2 World Championship gold medals around her neck, proof that the recovery had rebuilt more than just an elbow. 2 world titles, 1 elbow reconstruction behind her, and an Olympic Games in Paris now squarely on the horizon. The exact goal that had been taken from her in 2021 was, by 2024, back within reach, closer than it had ever been. At the 2024 U.S. Championships in Fort Worth, Texas, Blakely delivered the best all-around performance of her career, finishing with a total of 113.85, good for silver behind only Simone Biles, the most decorated gymnast alive. She added bronze on uneven bars at 14.45, bronze on balance beam at 14.2, and silver on vault at 14.4. It was, by any measure, the case-closing performance of a gymnast who belonged on the Paris Olympic team, a near lock heading into trials according to nearly every expert covering the sport, the kind of result that usually removes all doubt about a roster spot. Then came June 26, 2024, podium training at the U.S. Olympic trials in Minneapolis, one of the last practice sessions before the competition that would decide the 5-woman roster heading to Paris. Attempting a double layout full-on vault, Blakely ruptured her right Achilles tendon. She was carried off the competition floor and later wheeled out of the arena by medical staff, in full view of the same crowd that had come to watch her compete for a spot on the team, the injury visible and immediate in a way that left no room for uncertainty about what had just happened. The injury ended her Olympic bid instantly, before trials competition had even properly begun, the second time in 3 years that a major tendon or ligament injury had erased an Olympic opportunity she'd already earned the right to chase, at the worst conceivable moment on the sports calendar, with a silver medal from nationals still fresh in everyone's memory. On Instagram, still processing the shock of it, she wrote that she believed everything happens for a reason, and vowed to return stronger. It would take everything she had to make that vow true. Drop a comment below. Did you know Skye Blakely tore 2 separate major tendons or ligaments at 2 separate Olympic trials, 3 years apart? Nadia Comaneci, the gymnast whose name headlines this video, has one line that's been repeated by coaches and athletes across the sport for nearly 50 years, when you fall, get back on your feet and try again. It's not a line she's ever attached to Skye Blakely specifically, there's no record of the 2 ever crossing paths directly, but it describes, almost too precisely, exactly what Blakely's career has actually looked like. A torn elbow ligament at 16, a full reconstruction, 2 World Championship gold medals earned afterward. A torn Achilles tendon at 19, and a return to elite competition within a single calendar year of that second injury. Over and over again, refusing to let the floor be the last place her career touched. Back in 2004, a young Nastia Liukin appeared in a commercial alongside Nadia Comaneci, the same Nastia Liukin who would go on to win Olympic all-around gold in Beijing 4 years later, training the entire time at the exact Texas gym her father had co-founded a decade earlier. That gym is WOGA. That gym is where Skye Blakely grew up, training under coaches who had already built 2 Olympic champions before she ever set foot on the mat, inside a program whose own history runs directly back to the sport's original Perfect 10 icon, a lineage connecting a legend from 1976 Montreal to a teenager rehabbing an Achilles tear in 2025 Frisco, Texas, through nothing more than one gym's unbroken chain of coaching and champions. This past year, Blakely competed at the 2026 U.S. Classic on only bars and beam, not the all-around she's still building back toward, a deliberate, controlled choice rather than a limitation forced on her by circumstance. There's still a lot of success in competing bars and beam, she said. 2-time Olympic all-around medalist Suni Lee announced her own comeback that same week. Jade Carey competed in just her second elite meet since Paris. Caitlin Ohashi returned 7 years after her NCAA career ended. Lian Wong came back to elite competition for the first time since 2026 began. An entire generation of American gymnasts, once expected to retire in their late teens, are instead still competing deep into their 20s. And Blakely, twice knocked down by injuries that would have ended most careers outright, is one of the clearest examples of exactly why that shift has happened at all. "I don't want to give up on the dream," Blakely has said of Los Angeles 2028, the Olympics that would make her a 3-time trials veteran chasing the one result that's eluded her twice now, not through lack of ability, but through the cruelest possible timing on both occasions. A 3-year-old who followed her sister into a Texas gym has survived 2 career-threatening injuries and is still, right now, building toward the exact stage both of them once cost her, one deliberate, unrushed step at a time, refusing to let anyone else's timeline dictate how quickly she gets there. Does Skye Blakely finally make an Olympic team on her 3rd attempt? Drop your prediction in the comments. I read every single one. If this story hit you the way it hit me, hit subscribe, because Skye Blakely's story is not finished being written.